All right, we are live. Welcome back to Social Business Hour on this Monday, June, better known as iSocial Fans on the Twitters. As always, joined for well over a year now, every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Oh,
Oh, Rachel, can
I
you?
think we have a bit of a delay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. Happy Monday. Super excited to be here as always. Quick shout out to our awesome girl behind the Twitters, Kristen Cardos. If you have any questions for us, shout it out, and we will ask our special guest today. As always, we couldn't be more excited to talk about social business, and we have a true expert with us today. So, Brian, you want to give Amber a glowing intro?
Sure, of course. So, well, if you were following us on the Twitters or the Instagrams last week, you would have saw Amber and I actually got to hang out in Atlanta last week. Actually, a rare non-IBM conference that we hung out together. But I'm excited to have my friend and director of Awesome and social business influencers and evangelists over at IBM, Amber Armstrong. Welcome to Social Business Hour.
Thanks so much, Brian. Thanks, Rachel. Excited to be here.
All right, Amber. So I know you. I've been working with you now for well over a year. But give us a little bit of background on not only who you are, but what your role has kind of evolved in. Because I think we're going to talk a little bit about change and how IBM, which I would consider, I often refer to as large as a small country. We're going to talk a little bit about how IBM relates to startups, which I think is a lot about change. And I think your evolution in your position as well has a lot to do with change. Jump into question one.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing in my role is about how do we tell our story, but how do we also get other people to tell that story through their lens? Because their lens is so unique, right? It's so everybody has their own kind of perspective on it, and our audiences want to hear all of those different perspectives. So in my role, I have responsibility for amplification for social, mobile, and commerce brands. And so that includes everything we're doing with influencers, all of our advocates, whether it's an employee, a customer, a business partner, all of those channels, as well as our social execution. With looking at going to work with a startup community, we really wanted to tell the story of a couple of our solutions from a different perspective. We wanted to tell it from the perspective of a startup, not only from a millennial-led startup. And we thought, we really want to work with people who are out there trying to do good in the world. So we launched the New Way to Startup reality show.
Awesome. No, yeah, and I was, very lucky to be a part of that initial there at South by Southwest, and truly, it was pretty contagious. It was a very exciting experience for sure. So when we're talking, we talk a lot about influencer marketing. We talk a lot about engaging the community, but oftentimes we're lacking honestly real world examples because I think a lot of times. So is something I think a lot of brands struggle with, and they kind of come out with the same old advertising, yet they quote unquote say it's targeted towards millennials. And I think what you've done with IBM has been an amazing kind of twist on that. Not only have you done it, but you've taken an approach from it being very web series and all these different creative ways of getting influencer involved. So I'm going to throw out question one, or I guess Kristen will throw out question one to the audience there. So what creative ways are you leveraging influencer marketing, not only in the New Way to Startup, but in a lot of the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of fun with it. So we bring our influencers with us to a lot of our events, and we just kind of turn them loose. We bring them there, and we encourage them to, listen into the content. We encourage them to write about it from whatever perspective they have on it, good, bad, ugly. They go and they meet with our technical experts, that sort of thing. And so they really get to share this broader story, and they filter through it in a way that I think is really authentic for our audience. The other thing we do that I think is pretty interesting for other marketers is we take the content that comes from our influencers, whether it's about our kind of topic areas or not, but if it's something that we think will be interesting to our audience, we actually plug that in through our employee advocacy channels and really help our, we have 400,000 employees at IBM, so we really get our employees sharing out that content, all focused on kind of how to make it the best experience for our external audiences.
And I'm very lucky to be one of those.
Oh, do we just lose him?
Yeah, we're losing you, Brian.
I think you're sucking up too much bandwidth with all your toys.
Oh, man. All right, hold on one sec. Let me kill some of the bandwidth here. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back, but you've had
right.
a kind of a constant lag.
That's weird. Okay. So from a standpoint of connecting influencers not only with the community but with the brand, one of the things I've said is I really love how IBM can.
Uh-oh. I think we might have lost him. Brian, I think you might need to kill more stuff.
All right. Sorry about that. That's what happens when I'm at my in-laws for the time being. All right. I think we should be good. I killed All right, there we go.
All but the minimum?
Yep, is that better? Hopefully it is better. Hopefully that fixes that problem.
Yes.
So one of the things I said.
Oh no.
I guess it's not here.
Just when you get to the good bits, like they know. I wish I knew what he was trying to say. I would paraphrase.
Poor guy. It's always tough when you're traveling.
I know. He's been a trooper the last couple weeks. So let's stay on the influencer marketing theme here. I know I'm a big fan of influencer marketing, and for me, I'm liking the evolution. I think when it first came out the gate, people were just focused on celebrities and people who had a different kind of influence than perhaps what brands are seeking now. I think we're seeing a lot more credibility and just a lot more engagement with potential and existing customers by selecting people who are truly influential to them. And I think that's what you guys are actually doing really well at IBM by seeking out people who, they're not, micro influencers, but, people who truly do have an effect on their communities.
Yeah, we look at influencers in different kinds of buckets. So one of those influencers is a technical influencer. So it may be somebody that is involved with developer marketing, for example. And that would be a very technical kind of an audience. And then we also look at who are our employees are also influencers. We know employees are thought to be some of the most authentic voices from a brand. And so we want to make sure that we're talking with them. We also look at our customers as being influencers. And so our customers have a very unique experience with our products. And they're going to influence people either positively or negatively. And so we want to find ways to work with them that will help to tell their story. And then there's also people that are industry and social influencers. And those are even a little bit different inside of those. So an industry influencer may be someone who has very deep knowledge about one of the areas we focus on, which is HR marketing. They may not have a huge social following. They likely have some social following, but it may not be a giant following. And so we work with them to take their knowledge out, and sometimes we have to do a little more work with them on the social side or on the writing side, and then we amplify that through our channels and really try to make them the superstars. And then we also do the same thing with our social influencers who they already have a large social following and they're comfortable with blogs and videos and that sort of thing. And we work with them to help them kind of just share out their story as broadly as we can.
Are you back, B?
I think I'm back, hopefully. So yeah, no, I love that. What I was trying to say before I kept interrupting, which hopefully it doesn't do again, was one of the things I always thought that was interesting was that you do a good job of connecting employees to influencers. Can you guys talk about that strategy? Because I think that's a missing part that most brands forget, as it's not connecting an influencer to a logo, but connecting them to individual employees.
Yeah, yeah. One of the big things that we focus on is, as I was talking a little bit earlier about taking the content that comes from our influencers and sharing that content out across our employees' personal handles. And we use employee advocacy software tools to make that really easy. We also, it's really important to us that there is a person behind the brand. And so when we are doing outreach to influencers, we're not outreaching as social business or commerce or mobile. We reach out as Tarek with social business or Frank with social business and really try to make that a personal connection. And then another thing that I think is important in connecting influencers with each other but also with the employees is going to these face-to-face events and actually spending time together and having conversations and getting feedback from people about what they feel about our products and solutions, really face-to-face and building that kind of personal relationship.
No, I love it. I've been very lucky to be a part of that as well. And one of the things I think we talked about creativity in question one, where we were in a what was it called when the pedicab. We had a GoPro attached to a pedicab, and we were being interviewed about the future of email. And I think that was kind of innovative because I don't think of many people have thought about email as something that is unique or new or a new way to look at email. So when we're talking kind of taking advantages of all these different things, linking employee advocacy, linking it to influencer marketing. Can you give us a little background about some of the creative ways you've done that with like IBM Verse? I remember being interviewed about what things I wish I could do more of if I had more time back via email, and I was doing that in the back of a pedicab, and I thought that was a really a cool way of doing that at South by Southwest compared to just sending out an email survey per se and asking for my my advice.
Yeah. So we try to do things that really resonate with the specific event that we're going to be at. So for example, at South by Southwest, one of the biggest challenges there is in how you get from the convention center to wherever else you want to go. And you've got to get there in a hurry and cabs, and it's just the roads are blocked. And so, but if you can use a pedicab, then that's really helpful. And so with the Pedicab Confessions program, our goal was to solve an original problem that a customer has, getting from point A to point B, and then also talk to them about the other ways that we can help them have more time and make their lives better. It was a lot of fun. Now, we followed that up at South by Southwest by also kicking off the New Way to Startup program. And so we actually had brought in at that point, we had 10 companies, 10 millennial-led startups that came in and they pitched why they should be allowed to continue forward to the New Way to Startup campaign, the reality show. And we had about 200 and something people in the room. We were over capacity. We actually had to shut some of the doors, so it was really pretty exciting. And we brought the teams in. They pitched. A group of judges, you being one of them, decided which 5 were going to continue, and then we brought those 5 back to Austin in April, and we put them in a house, and for a week we filmed them going through different challenges, and we brought in all of these external resources, VC, branding, you name it. We brought in these different resources to really help them accelerate their businesses over the week, and then as they did that, they presented at the end of every day. Someone won every day, they earned points. And now we're at the last stages of this. So today is actually the last day for people to vote for the entrepreneurs that they would like to win. And so what we are asking everyone to do is go and watch the videos and promote out, vote for them, right? Let's use social to figure out which company should be the new way to start up entrepreneur. And it builds over the points they've already earned, and then we're going to actually announce the winner on July 1st. This whole time, just to bring it back, though, to kind of what's in it for IBM in this scenario, these companies are using IBM Verse and Watson Analytics and all of the exercises. So it's kind of, I like to call it kind of a case study on crack, right? Like you're seeing the tools in work at solving customers' challenges.
And I think that's a really interesting approach because, I mean, really, honestly, part of it has to be like from the outside looking in is what is IBM not only getting from it, but they're investing in this from a standpoint, that is pretty impressive. And then they're also kind of brands that are in local Austin, but also doing it over integrating it offline with online. And one of the questions we have here with question 2, we're talking about what are the advantages of linking employee advocacy to influencer marketing and kind of what you're doing there, because I also think a lot of brands kind of keep those things separate. And I think the way that you've had a really interesting approach of not only linking employee advocacy with influencer marketing, but also some of your customer experience campaigns, the evangelist side of the house. So can you kind of talk about what are some of those advantages of you kind of, I guess, kind of having a view over all of that and being able to leverage that across the board? Because we have lots of IBMers in the chat today. We have lots. If you follow the New Way to Startup, the web series, I recommend everybody kind of go out there and check out episode 1. I make a cameo, but that's something that I think was very interesting, having both employee advocacy and influencer marketing kind of under one view. Can you kind of talk about what advantages that kind of gives you and what I think maybe other brands could learn from that kind of alignment?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you take today's chat, for example, you probably saw this, tons and tons, and a lot of times that you saw that was actually being promoted by an IBM employee, because we put it into our employee advocacy tools. We use dynamic signal for that, and so our employees told you about this chat. We do the same thing when we launched IBM Verse in New York City last November. We took the content that we were creating, both from our influencer marketing as well as our branded content, and put it into our employee advocacy tool, and then the employees kind of share it out there. We also did live coverage of the New Way to Startup event that we filmed in Austin, and we actually had our employees sharing out content every day. We did a Storify every day, and so people got to follow along with the content as we're going along, and it kind of really makes it almost a bit more like a real reality TV show.
Oop, I hit the wrong button there for a second. But so no, Rachel, you've worked with startups for a long time, worked as a startup in a startup, in that area. When you're thinking of it, when you're looking at someone like an IBM, not only working with influencers to attract, with startups, but also, kind of connecting with that millennial generation. What are your thoughts on some of that? Not only the creative ways of doing that, but you were kind of curious, from an IBM perspective on, hey, if you're going to engage and you're building this relationship with influencers as well as the startups, what are from a startup looking in? Is that something that you think other startups look at, or what are your thoughts on that overall, Rachel?
Yeah, I think anytime you can combine networks, whether it's big enterprise with startup communities, I think is a win, because there's a lot enterprise can learn from startups and vice versa. So I think when you kind of tap into what's working for both, you kind of create like the best business strategy ever, basically. So yeah, I think it's collaborating and the mix of ideas, I think, is really powerful.
And I think people, let's just be really straightforward. People don't think of IBM technologies being accessible for startups. And what we really wanted to show with the reality TV show is that it is accessible. It absolutely is accessible. We have solutions that can be used by companies of any size. They're all in the cloud. They're all, very accessible from a price point as well. And we wanted to show people that, this isn't the IBM that you think you know.
No, Now, from a millennial perspective, let's talk about that event itself. I was lucky to be a part of it. Part of it was not only was this a millennial kind of focus, but the startups themselves were millennials. But I thought it was really interesting, not only to how you're engaged, but our friend Chelsea Cross, who also does a Twitter chat, Millennial Talk. She brought her in to kind of not only be the voice, but kind of lead a lot of those startups. And I was really interested from like the idea of, there was not only web series, but in the most recent episode, you gave them iPads to do kind of man on the street. and we're streaming this on Periscope. Apparently, that was part of the reason that my internet was not getting along with me, is that I was streaming. What has been like kind of the response from the creative side of it, not only from the millennial startups themselves, but some of the audience that really have been able to engage? Because I think more brands need to take a more creative approach to not only engaging millennials, but kind of getting millennials part of the conversation.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is entertaining as well, right? Like there's so many things that compete for everyone's time, doesn't matter if you're millennial or not. How do you share a message with a group of people that they're interested in? And it's got to be entertaining, right? It's got to provide some value to these companies, to the people that are listening. And so they watch these companies going through these challenges, and they think, oh yeah, there's a couple ways they can associate with them, right? They may really care about the topic, right? I mean, our millennial companies, our social good companies, are saving children's lives. They are helping people that have budget challenges really stretch their dollars and really make better food choices. They're doing all kinds of really amazing things, helping keep infants alive. I mean, gosh, I could go on and on. And people get excited about that. And I get really excited when you think, how do you make technology a part of that story, right? Because it is. You can do all of those great social good things that you want to do better and faster with the right technology. And IBM First and Watson Analytics are the two technologies that we chose to put into that really helps to tell their story, but it's also something that we think is a good starting point for entrepreneurs.
No, I love that, and I Mark Mayer from Twitter just put in there. He said, treat employee advocacy programs, treating your employee advocacy to a not so still. I think that ends up being like part of that. I think the creativity, you're doing a web series, right? You're not doing a branded commercial in the Super Bowl, right? You're doing a multiple, short, under 10-minute consumption of a video, which we all know it's the ADHD on-demand generation where we want it when we want it, and we want it, in short bursts. So I think those are kind of some of those more creative ways, to do it. I know if you guys are watching on Twitter, make sure you use the hashtag SBizHour. I actually see some people using SBizHour in Periscope as well to bring in some questions and comments, because one of the things I think that is unique is you said you want to relate IBM to not only the millennials but to startups and put those tools in their hands. And in the most recent web episode, you actually have them showing them using IBM Verse, and you have them using Watson Analytics. And I think that is huge, because we talk about it a lot. It's great to say these are not just for enterprises, but when you actually can see a startup, it's really, another telling element here is, I have a love for a couple of the startups because of the relationship I've been able to build with them, over social and meeting them face to face. So I think when we're talking about, connecting with the community, not only the community that is watching these series, but the community that you want to be using, analytics. What are some of the things that you've kind of done to kind of really bring, I'd say, IBM Verse or IBM Watson Analytics really stood out to these startups that said, wow, I would have never realized that I could use this?
Yeah, so Brian, you're still got a little bit of a lag, but I think you're asking kind of what are some of the ways they use the technology to really accelerate their businesses. And a couple of things are really interesting. So there was some market analytics that the teams didn't really know and hadn't investigated previously, and they were able to use Watson Analytics to uncover new markets. They were able to, one of the companies, Owlet, for example, discovered that men are actually a big part of their market, and they were able to actually understand more about what are some of the reasons that men, what goes through a man's head when he is, a father, when he is thinking about the safety of his children, and how do they market to that differently? I think that was a really interesting one. I think, with Charity Charge, they have a credit card that it basically, when you make a purchase, instead of giving you miles that are going to expire, the miles actually turn into donations to the charity of your choice. And they discovered some really interesting things about the amount of miles that go expired, right, and the way that they can actually start to capture that market a bit better.
Those are really cool examples. I think technology is just so fantastic that we can scale personally our own social good efforts, which I think is kind of, we would never be able to help in that capacity before, but just in little things like, I'm a fan at the grocery store, how your credit card can round up. You don't even realize that, that 37 cents is going to your favorite charity. So all of those ideas, I think, are amazing, and being able to leverage technology to help other people do good things is really cool.
Yeah, and we even had, so the teams all had at least 3 people that worked at the company. Most of them had a good bit more than that. And so we had the teams working with their teams remotely. And so they did some video chats and things so they could really give it more of an at-home kind of feel that they're all there together. But it was cool to be able to connect them as closely as we possibly could without them actually being there face-to-face.
That is pretty cool. That would be probably one of my favorite things about being involved in that sort of, in your capacity at IBM. I think being able to connect people and really see magic happen, I think that's going to be really rewarding.
Yeah, we even set them up on dates. So they, for their business dates, don't get too excited.
Like, man, I didn't know IBM was branching out that way. Social good, for real.
That's right. Periscope should be lighting up now. But no, we set them up. For example, we set up Stretch Recipes, which is a company that's actually based here in Austin. And one of their meetings they had with Whole Foods. And so we really tried to connect people not only with technology but also with personal relationships. And I'm really passionate about the fact that technology helps us build those relationships and helps us to strengthen those. But it's also good just finding people that are aligned around the same things and connecting them.
So now we're talking about kind of connecting small groups of people and even one-on-one. So question 4 is more about community. So connecting on a scale is kind of a stumbling block, for startups and enterprise alike. So how can employee advocacy and influencer marketing kind of change that and sidestep that hurdle?
Well, I think one of the interesting ways that people don't necessarily think about either employee advocacy or influencer marketing impacting employees is that as employees share your messages online and out in social channels, they are actually learning so much about the market and about your company's messages, right? So they're listening to what the influencers are saying, and they're hearing this third-party voice because they're reading it before they're sharing it out. At least we hope they're reading it before they share it out. And then likewise with the branded content that we're putting out there, they're starting to digest it, and so it really helps them to feel a part of the company. It helps them to feel a connection to the people that are making the markets, right? Our external influencers, our technical leaders, the people that are really involved. And we actually find that it's really good at helping to build up loyalty and helping employees really feel like they're a part of the marketing department, not only as their day-to-day jobs, some of them are marketers, but also as a part of their just day-to-day lives as people.
So along those lines, how much leeway do you give your employees to kind of customize the message to each of their individual networks? Do you give them much liberty there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to. IBM was one of the first companies to release social computing guidelines. We've been really happy to embrace our employees on social for a very long time. We give them a lot of leeway. Just like with our influencers, you want people to say whatever is authentic to them, right? And you hope that your brand your messages are aligned enough that you're in the right place, but you have to trust. That's core to the whole thing. And the great thing is when you trust your employees, they come up with these great things that surprise you, They come up there, they're sharing stuff on social about the New Way to Start Up reality series, and they're sharing it in ways that I wouldn't have thought to share, or that I might not even have the brand permission to share it in that way, but I love for somebody else to do it. And that's great. It's really cool. Like, it's always surprised me what happens when you give people the freedom and trust that they deserve.
I love that you've emphasized trust, because I think that's kind of the olive branch that empowers your employees to do great things. Then they're like, oh, I'm going to go that extra mile because it's reciprocal. Like, I trust them, they trust me. So that's love all that. Sorry I cut you off, Brian.
No, you were right. No, I mean, it's the idea of trusting both employees and influencers, and trusting that if you're, I mean, honestly, when it comes down to it, you trust that your product doesn't suck, right? I mean, because you trust that your product's going to deliver. Therefore, I don't have to baby step them and put force field around it, because I know that if I arm them with the right information and I make it easy, that whole keep it simple, stupid, and I trust them, they're going to actually deliver an authentic message. And our buddy Brian Kramer jumped in here when he heard the word human, and this is an H2H chat, which is a great chat that happens before, and there's usually like a gong sound whenever anyone uses the word human in the conversation. But I think one of the things I really found really interesting on Twitter was that a lot of people really were, when you said you're able to use technology to build relationships, people often go the other way with that, right? They're like, they blame technology for them sucking at building relationships, which I think is kind of the root wrong problem there. So I love that you said it that way. I love that you not only talked about trust, but you talked about how that technology is allowing you to build relationships. I mean, even the web series, I can imagine like stretch recipes, which is one of my favorites from the show. Like she's really helping people be better with their budget, and if she's using IBM Verse and IBM Analytics, I mean, that really does kind of boil it down to you as a startup having to ask yourself, well, maybe I'm not even using the right tools. Maybe I'm only using the tools that I searched Google for, and what other tools do I have access to? So I love that. I trust, training, and tools are my 3 T's.
Yeah, I think. I think those are really good. That's a really good way to look at it. And you think about when you think about how you and I met, Brian. I mean, we met over Twitter, right? And that's kind of how our conversation started. So technology enabled us to start interacting together, and then it's not something you do entirely alone, right? Like, it's not just technology, but it's also bringing in face-to-face interactions when you're able to. We have a lot of solutions. One of the great things about Verse is it's actually built in with IBM Connections, and so the paid version is, and so you're able to actually tag people with the right skills and knowledge so that you can actually navigate your organization, which is really helpful if you think about, if you're a startup and you're trying to figure out who does what, you can use technology to be able to sift through some of that.
No, I love that. And one of the Grant Simmons on Twitter, Grant's an awesome guy, actually from Virginia. He's in. I'm hopefully going to see him soon in Virginia area. He said an example he said was Apple still puts stickers inside of every product. No reason every business shouldn't try to create a tribe. And I thought that was a great example because it doesn't even tell you on there. That people are doing great things by really you give them swim vote on. Like one of the things I loved about that event. I was a judge at the first event of that the New Way to Startup event, but I was a judge, and now it's in the hands of the voters, right? And I think you took like approach like very American Idol-ish, right? Where now we're kind of adapting where you let people vote from 10 to 5, and now you're letting the people vote, like the real community. I think not enough brands trust their community to be involved in those kind of decision processes. So let's. So I think we're gonna jump into question 5, and I want to talk about. So we talk about the reality TV series. I also want to throw Periscope in here because I actually was not part of the second stage, but I actually watched as the startups were brought in to meet with the mayor of Austin via Periscope. So your team had Periscope up there. They were using it, allowing us, the digital community, to really engage. I remember sitting there laughing because I felt like I was sitting at that desk. And I think the fact that you were able to do that, you talked about you trusting your employees, but you must be trusted within your company because they're allowing you and your teams to do that. I mean, Amy and your team is amazing. Can you talk a little bit about where trusts kind of came in that for your role, and then really how you made that work so that maybe other brands can learn how to get that kind of same adoption and you can use a web.
Yeah, absolutely. We, a lot of the way that we made it work, if you will, is we watched what you did at South by Southwest, right? And we saw kind of that you were able to build this following, and that was great for us to see. And we have just naturally, Maria Linens is our vice president, and she gives us a lot of leeway to go and try and explore and hope that things work out, and we are very good stewards of the brand. It's very critical to us. We're a 104-year-old company. We didn't get this way by being total cowboys. But within our guidelines, you're not going to see us put out something that doesn't look professional, right? You're going to see us put out something that it may not be perfect, it may be rough around the edges, but it's still going to be professional. It's still going to be respectful of everyone involved, that sort of thing. So, we're running a reality TV show, but you're not going to see us showing, not that there were any late night parties, but you're not going to see us like showing the late night parties, and you're going to see our guys. There's a great scene in the last episode, I think, or maybe spoiler alert, might be this week's episode, but you're going to see the guys doing yoga, right? And you might see them do a little swimming here and there, right? But you're not going to see them funneling beers. I don't know if people still funnel beers, but you're not going to see that on an IBM event. But because we know our guardrails and we stick within those, but we push it. And not everything works, and that's okay. Sometimes we don't get the best response, and we're still allowed to try it out.
No, I love that. I mean, we know that technology can't fix stupid, but it also, if you, even though if it's real time or live like Periscope, you can have a strategy to try to mitigate or limit the amount of stupid that kind of gets streamed or gets, kind of taken to the masses. So I was curious. I'm seeing a lot of conversation going on here, and this is a kind of question off kind of script. When we're talking about interaction between influencers, your customers, and your employees, how do you point of what role does IBM play, or do you just kind of say hey, we're going to talk around real relationship and conversation around influencers, community, and employees?
So I think I caught your question, but you're basically asking how do we kind of mitigate between customers, employees, and influencers, and what role do we play in kind of policing that, if you will? We don't. We don't. We really encourage people to be authentic. We encourage our influencers to talk to our employees. It's, I think that's the great thing about social, right? I can send a tweet right now to whoever I want to, and that's pretty powerful. And I think if we did anything to mitigate that, it would really be a distraction to the overall thing that we're trying to do. I mean, anyone on this call today that's watching you can tweet to our entrepreneurs. They'll tweet you back. They will talk to you. They will ask you to vote for them. I mean, they're very accessible, and that's kind of the amazing thing.
Yeah, I can still remember their faces when we were talking about the hashtags on day one and how eager they were. They were like, wait, everyone's gonna be able to hear our story and hear what our brand does. Their excitement still gets me excited today because it's something we all forget sometimes when you live in this space, that raw emotion of excitement to leverage something like social media.
Absolutely, yeah, and it was great to see, some of the entrepreneurs had different levels of knowledge on social than others did, right? And so to have you there helping them kind of understand a little bit about social and a little bit about branding was really helpful, because that was, especially at that point, that was a time when they were really kind of ramping up. But if we're thinking about, what's really valuable for entrepreneurs, mean, one of the easiest ways to drive website traffic, to engage with audiences, to learn, is to leverage social media. And so, entirely separate from the products, and talking about Verse and Watson Analytics, really helping these entrepreneurs understand how social media works, I think, is another value that I personally really enjoyed. I mean, you and I are both very passionate about social media, so it was cool to watch.
Yeah, I think the video has been so fun for people too, because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders, they have trouble putting into words, written word or tweetable snapshots, their passion. So I think when you can get them on video, they can just be themselves and do it, and it's addictive because they see people respond in real time. I think it's a really powerful medium, and that's why it's so popular right now.
Yeah, one of the things when we first launched the program, and it's on the website. If you go to ibm.com/newwaytostartup, you'll see, if you scroll down about 3/4 of the way down, you'll see the user-generated videos that the team submitted in order to be eligible to participate at our event in South by Southwest. For IBM to put user-generated videos up on the website, it's pretty unusual for IBM. And they're funny. I mean, some of them are more serious than others, but some of them are so funny. And just that is what makes it interesting and fun, and you can tell a story and a personality in video in such a different way than in text. So it's been a lot of fun from that perspective.
No, I think that's interesting too, because when you're talking about relating to millennials, I remember thinking when we went there to talk to the millennial startups about social media, I made that assumption that I think maybe all of us kind of make, that if they were millennial-led startups, they're probably really good at social. That is kind of a refreshing look of, why do we like the American Idol, when they're auditioning? Because it's so raw and real, and then you look back at Carrie Underwood's first video, and you're like, wow, like that was her just kind of like, she had butterflies, her life changed in that moment. I went back and watched the startup videos, the entries just yesterday, and I was laughing because even for me over the last couple of weeks, I think that's a way that brands can really show and relate. And we talk about human there, Brian Kramer, but there's few brands that can really do it that well, and I think they've done a great job of that. So I think it's kudos to the startups, the 10 startups that you've selected, now down to 5. Did I freeze?
Yeah, you
Sorry.
did.
It froze there for a second. All right, so when we're talking about some of these things and we're talking about these events, so you worked and created a web series. You had influencers as part of the judges. You had awesome Chelsea Cross as the host. When we're talking about these type of things, how do you get involved in these events, or how are some of the strategy for getting people not only to amplify these type of things that you're doing, but to come be a part of it? Because I think the question that I start to hear or see is someone says, well, how the hell did IBM get all these people to share that? And how did they get IBM to, how did IBM get these people to come to South by Southwest or come to these events? I know you had some startup entrepreneurs that.
Yeah, so you froze again, Brian, but I think I can kind of follow where you're going there. So to get people to come to South by Southwest, it really interesting, right? We trust people to be really good at their jobs. And we worked with a company in Austin called Verb. And Verb specifically focuses on social good entrepreneurs. And they really helped us to create an event that would really resonate with South by Southwest attendees, but that also would hold true to our brand. And it was great. They did a really great job. We had a whiskey tasting, and we talked about it as a reality TV show, and so it got some really unusual pickup. We promoted it really heavily to people that don't think of IBM all that often. We really promoted it into the entrepreneurship community in Austin, and leveraged a lot of our offline relationships to do that. I think that's really an important part of it. But then outside of that, I think, we really want to see these companies succeed. I mean, if I got to choose, they'd all win. right? Like I mean, I would have even eliminated the original 5. I mean, it's that I don't get to make that choice. But you know, ideally, we want to see all these companies go forward, and if we can use the power of IBM to share their stories, that's huge. And so when you ask the question, you know, why do people want to share this story? It's because these people are doing really good stuff, like really, really good stuff. And you know, I love being a part of that, and I think that the other people that are sharing the content also love being a part of that.
I like that you mentioned leveraging offline. I think that's something that we all tend to forget, kind of being in our little online social bubble, that your networking offline is really the home run. And I think if you kind of get the conversation started there before the event, you can have a lot more success online during the event. So I think that's a really key point to take away.
Yeah, and there are a lot of offline relationships that were involved in the way that we ran the startup competition. So we leveraged a lot of Verbs relationships. The judges that we picked for the South by Southwest event, a lot of those people were people that we either knew offline or that Verb knew offline. And then when we brought in the mentors, so a lot of the mentors, this was really interesting, a lot of the mentors that we brought back to the house in April didn't really know that much about social or about, you know, how to promote some of these things externally, and so we used them because they had real business knowledge, and so we had to go offline to find those people.
So I'm curious, from a standpoint of, I'd say IBM buy-in or IBM management looking at this, when they look at things like Periscope and you know, the web series, how are you kind of, I wouldn't say graded is the wrong word, but what do they look at for success from when you're creating these kind of content? 'Cause I think that's something that we would all love to know how that's rewarded, so we can kind of almost make other brands or other companies get that buy-in as well.
Yeah, I think it depends on the company. I mean, for us, certainly we're looking at video views. We want to make sure, you know, but we're promoting across various channels, right? So we have a Facebook page that's dedicated to New Way to Startup, and so there's Facebook views, there's the YouTube views, there's people that visit the website. I mean, there's lots of different metrics. We're just trying to understand how many people are we reaching. We also are looking at, you know, are people amplifying the content? Do they think it's cool that they're sharing it? You know, my first post on this chat the other day was on Saturday, like Saturday midday, and I just put up the handle, or sorry, the image that you sent over to me, Brian, and it got like 34 retweets and like 30-something favorites in just a couple of hours on a Saturday. So I think people are interested in sharing this information, and then by showing that interest, that's kind of how we hope to continue to get funding to do these things going forward.
No, I love it. And someone, Mike Gonzalez, conversation. Did I freeze again? I don't know why he keeps doing that. But so, you know, he said Periscope, Instagram, and Twitter chats. And I would say B2B brands often say that they're not able to leverage social. What is your answer to that when you hear someone say they're not able to kind of leverage that? Because I think you guys are doing it in a way that you know, every other brand could learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're leveraging social every single day. We do it with a very extreme amount of rigor, I think, and you know, we are very focused on very tactical execution type of things, right? So you see us participating from our brand handles and lots of tweet chats, and really starting to make sure that we are participating in the external conversations. We, you know, our management cares about impressions, so we all know impressions isn't really the best metric, but it is an indicator of how are you creating the right awareness, are you getting the word out there, and we see that people are really interested in that. And from a B2B perspective, also, I think it's really important, and you know, we'll laugh at Brian Kramer here again. Hi, Brian. But to realize that people at businesses are actually people, and they, you know, they're buying things for their own kind of agendas, right? So you're buying a solution, we'll say an email solution, right? Because you believe it's going to help your company accelerate faster, because it's going to help you meet your business goals. It's people that are consuming the messages. Like, IBM doesn't consume messages. IBM's 400,000 people consume messages, and so we use social as a way to speak to those individuals, both in their business motivations and their personal motivations.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've been in the B2B space most of my career, and I always get a little frustrated when I hear people asking questions like that, like, how can B2B use social? Because I truly feel that people in the B2B space have an advantage, because buying has always been relationship based. So it's like you're out there building rapport, and that's to your benefit. With B2C, it's a very short relationship. You're out there, it's transactional. So I think, we have the upper hand, B2B people. Embrace it.
Hi, Rachel's daughter.
And my mini.
That's human relationship right there, right? That's awesome. No, I agree. I love it. I love that we, not only do we already have the relationship, but like you said, B2B not only shouldn't use it as an excuse, but they should use it as kind of like an amplifier. So, and I'm also curious, Amber, from your perspective, I would ask you to tell me who's going to win or who you want to win. But I won't put you on the spot. But I'm curious, what's one of the takeaways you've had since you've done this New Way to Startup event and series that maybe like a lesson learned, or even something that surprised you in this entire process? If it's from a startup, or even maybe from your seat looking down at, to creating this kind of event.
Yeah, gosh, we've learned so much. I mean, really, so much. One thing I would say, though, is that on the startup side, when we first watched their videos and we first started talking to them, we're like, oh my gosh, like, these guys are, we are so in love with all of them. They are perfect. And I honestly thought, they don't really need our help. Like, these guys are going to just skyrocket straight through. And then as we actually got involved with the startups, they are insanely bright people, really insanely bright. But they all have areas that they could do a little better in, and an area where they could use a little more focus, whether that's from a technology perspective or whether that's from a business plan perspective. But it's bringing those people together provided, I think, a really cool value to them, not only from the mentors, but also by being around each other and kind of living in this house and kind of having that shared experience. And then I would say, from the perspective of what do we learn about the event, is it's in all truth, developing the content was the easy part. Getting the people together, getting the we had great vendors who made actually executing it really easily. Unreasonable Media did the videography for it. They did an amazing job. Verb did a great job on finding the entrepreneurs and making those entrepreneurial connections. But it's hard to get the story out there and to make sure that people are seeing it. It's hard to cut through the clutter. It's hard to, the videos are pretty short, but they're still, they're 7-8 minutes long, and I think we've got enough entertainment value that we're seeing some great results there. But it's been really challenging to figure out how to navigate that and to see what's worked best and what hasn't worked as well. For a really tactical thing, just to add on to that, one of the things when we first started sharing out some of the series, we didn't do such a great job of picking some of the opening scenes that we had kind of frozen the videos on. And I think people just kind of were like, I don't know what this video is about, But then we went back and we changed some of those frozen kind of opening scenes. We did some of the promotion through additional tiles, that sort of thing. And that's made a really big improvement in getting the video content actually viewed.
What they say, release early, reiterate often.
Yes. Yeah.
Tweak, tweak, tweak.
Well, we're about to go into Netflix mode. Right now we are, from the perspective of, hey, wait, there's a new episode coming out on Thursday, and then the big reveal July 1st, and we're going to do a live reveal. So we're actually going to do a spoiler alert, but we're going to have live streams across the different, each of the businesses, and Chelsea's going to be involved. We're going to do a big reveal. We won't all be physically face-to-face. But then we're going to release all this out so that people can go back and catch up on it, and they can binge watch the New Way to Startup. I want to. Maybe I'll start a social campaign around how did you binge watch New Way to Startup.
That's catchy. We'll tweet that after I binge on that, of course.
I love it too because I think it's all lessons learned. We all are learning the video marketing aspect of this new age of video on demand. I think that's you gave some actionable takeaways there just from the idea of changing. Is my favorite growth hacker in all of the YouTube world. Nathan Australia Wow is his Twitter handle. If you haven't watched his episode, and he just gives us all these things that we could do to make our YouTube videos better viewed and more SEO friendly. And the whole time I'm taking notes. I had to go back and watch the episode again. So I think it's something we're all learning as we go when it comes to video. But I love hearing that not only have you guys tweaking and testing it, but you're willing to fail a little bit and then adjust and do it again. And I think other brands need to take that kind of apparently is living here and my in-laws is having right now in Virginia. But Amber, give us so you said July 1st is the big date. We'll make sure to get that out on the handles. Any other big things you want us to keep an eye on for as we move forward?
No, I mean I think the big thing are just go to ibm.com/newwaytostartup, check out the videos. We've got the episodes are live there. You can see them all on YouTube. Would really, really love, and my team's sharing some social tiles right now on the New Way to Work hashtag. Would love to have you guys go in there and vote today on which entrepreneur you want to win. Take a personal interest in some of these guys. I'm sure there is one of these companies that will resonate with something that we're all personally passionate about.
Yeah, I'll have to give my my vote maybe after closer to July 1st on who I hope to win, and maybe I'll share a little bit of insights on who I was hoping from the beginning. So I think that's is awesome. I love the conversation. Excited to be a part of it myself. Glad that you were able to come on as well, Amber. And I know for those watching, this is every Monday. So we actually have some pretty cool, I would say, Insta awesome plans for July coming up, and Rachel knows I'm very bad at keeping. But we're in the works for some awesome stuff for July as well. But yeah, thank you again, Amber. Guys, make sure if you're watching this on replay, because it will be on YouTube. We talked about video. If you're watching this on replay on YouTube, make sure to check out any of the past episodes. Check out the SBiz Hour handle on Twitter. Thank you, Kristen Carter, out there, community manager running the Twitters. And Rachel, anything else for next week? I've probably already ruined the surprise for July, but I don't think I'll ruin the guest for next week. But anything else that I haven't ruined yet?
No, this was awesome. Thank you, Amber, for joining us. I actually scribbled down some notes myself, and I will definitely be binge watching the webisodes here shortly. Thank you again, and hope everybody has a fantastic week.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.